G'day everybody, Mark here. It's before work, it's before I'm about to do some of my other video work, and I'm decided to do something that I've sort of been holding off to do for a long time, and that is to start a little discussion about a little bit about where the world's at and a little bit of my perception on things as what I'm normally up to, trying to help things, trying to fix things, trying to make things better. But it's just as a general topic, and maybe it's just getting stuff off my chest, but it's things that I suppose I believe more of the world should be, is about wisdom, about people who have lived a bit of life, who've been around for a while, and that's where our information should, or at least part of where our information should be coming from. And yes, I born in 1963. I haven't been around forever by any means, but I have been around for a while, and I've been paying attention for a fair while, and I've been probably, most would say, overthinking it for a long while too. And I suppose what I'm actually getting into here, first off on the wisdom side of things, I, as a kid, both my parents were school teachers. And that taught me a little bit the opposite of what you'd think. That didn't make me a better student. What it actually taught me was, from a very early age, that the authority, the academia, the people who are supposed to know don't necessarily know. They get it wrong as often as everybody else. Nothing against my mum and dad. They still raised me with good values and the things that I wanted on that level, but equally we're very different people because, and I suppose that gets into the world of academia, of bureaucracy, of the people that sort of think they know or are supposed to know or have been taught by where all the information exists. It very much doesn't work that way, for obvious reasons. It's recorded by someone, it's someone's interpretation, it's indoctrinated through a system, which means that it's not really how a system should be, in the fashion of it's part of it. It is a way to educate, it is a way to pass information on, but it has some big flaws in it. And I suppose before I get into that, there's lots of conversations I would sort of like to go through and explain at least my viewpoint on it, be it right or wrong, that's for you to judge, but at least my viewpoint on it. But I'd start with more of a core ingredient of when I try and figure out where this world is going, and some would say it's the end of a time, it's an end, it's the end of this stage of society, and we're going to see the end of it, and others would, and as I would hope, that we can learn for a change and actually take a step forward rather than just go through another cycle. And in trying to figure that information out, what's the ingredient? What's wrong? Why does our world work like it does? And there's, some people would say money, some people would say democracy, some people would say greed, some people would, listen, there's all sorts of blames and reasons for it. Well, but largely most people don't. We just talk about the idiosyncrasies of what we have and what's wrong, and not really try and figure out deeper than that. I've learned from all those years of overthinking it that generally the problem you're looking at isn't the problem. You've got to go 2 or 3 or 4 or a dozen layers deeper than that to find where the problem is. And when you work on that bit of it, that's how you'll fix it. For those who don't know, I'm a mechanic by trade, philosophicist as a way I would do it, being someone who used to spoonerize a little bit. Try and think deeper than that. Try and think into listen, I won't get too complicated in the words. What I would come down to is a thing that I refer to, and if I do more of these videos, I'll come back to referring to this quite a bit, and it's a thing I call worth versus wealth. And I suppose it goes back to what I think humans are and where we still are in our psyche, and maybe all we're capable of, and maybe we're capable of more, but what I think humans are, which is animal needs at a slightly higher level, and that is we need to feel worth. Now what that means, it's not worth in the way of how much you're worth in the way of dollars, or it's not worth in how much you are in the way of power. It's actually worth, and I suppose the best way I can describe it is if you think about a very small tribe, let's say where we started from, tribe, family, it's going to be above a family group, but let's say there was only 20 people, nomadic people that hunters-gatherers or whatever it was, and whether that's 10,000 years ago or that's 20 million years ago, our history really doesn't know, and the people who are supposed to know keep on changing the goalposts. So let's say we don't know, but it's a long time ago. And whether that was Neanderthals around us or whatever it was as we are, and all the different permutations you can go to how we end up where we are, but a very small group of people that all had a job to do. And that means that the person who cared for the baby, the person who found the vegetables, the person who went out and hunted the wildebeest or the whatever it was, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, whatever it was, the hunter, the food gatherer, the cleaner, the person who cleaned up the shithole where everyone had to go and relieve themselves or whatever. Every single person in that tribe had a job, and every single person had the feeling of worth because that was their job. And it wasn't done where how we look at it now, where the hunter's worth more because they're the hunter and they're strong, or the baby nurturer is more important because they're looking after babies. No, it was all, everyone was very equal. Everyone was very appreciative that someone was doing that job, and the person doing that job was really proud of doing that job. And that's how their society, their tribe, whatever it is, their small group, that's how it ran. Everyone had a full chest with pride as the fact that was their job. And probably to some degree or another would have defended their job. Someone tries to help them, no, leave, it's my job, I want to do it. This is what makes me worth something. For them, that worth is, and if you've experienced it, I've experienced it, small things, in small ways, in times of my life, and not to say I'm not the same as everyone now, but I've experienced that. That's properly getting an emotional reward, a real feeling of worth out of doing that. You see it in animals too. If you pay attention, you'll see that animals do this same thing. Too, it depends on the level of the animal and that sort of stuff and what their nature is, but you know, if you have a dog and you train it properly, and that doesn't mean it goes in your bed and it does all the things of a modern way people train a dog or have a dog, when they have their job, they have their role, they fiercely protect it. If you want to get further into the animal side of things, then you look at how a wolf pack runs, and there's some really nice images of a wolf pack traveling through the snow, and the people who have studied to work out where all the animals are, and the fact of it's a little bit of a display of the same sort of thing, but it's worth is what I'm talking about. Now you can go forward, and what you find largely when I follow that thought through, when you go into larger groups, as simple as that, you just get lots and lots more people, then you can't simply do this worth thing in a simple fashion, because there's too many people with that, and the efficiencies of it, all the rest of it, the confusion of it means that they're both, even just a large group, before you put money and corporations or businesses and things into it, it becomes a lot harder. It's a lot that you have groups of people doing this, and you have a leading one and a not leading one, so more worth and less worth. It gets complicated once you go into larger numbers of people. This gets a lot further complicated by the time you bring our sorts of money and shiny things, and then entertainment and all the other stuff that comes into that makes a larger group worth, to the point where you get to replace what we now have largely replaced that, and not successfully, but we've largely replaced that worth with wealth. So, and wealth is a big word, so I'm actually talking about money. You know, richer is better. The more you get, the better. Very few people, it's more so in our Western, the Eastern cultures tend to be less this way, but it is there as well, don't get me wrong. But the more money that you get, the better it is. There's not too many people that wouldn't say, and they might not say it in getting more money, but they would say, if I can do this and I'm going to get another check from wherever it is, then you should do it because it's worth more money. And that's an obvious thing, isn't it? Because it's just simply more money. Or more power, if I can control people more, the way our governments work, the way our corporations work, the way the people above all that work. It's all about this power thing. Now, you start to read about these people, and very rarely do you find anyone that's happy, and very rarely do you find anyone that's full, that's had enough. Generally, more wealth, more money means they want more money. More power means they want more power. my summation of what's actually going on here is that it doesn't actually work. That is, although we've sort of replaced the worth thing with a wealth thing, crude way to put it, I get it, but that's my way of doing it, it doesn't actually work. So we end up with greed running things. In various forms, greed runs it. There's lots more confusions and problems that happen out of lots of people, which our brains just aren't set up for, in my opinion. We just, this swap over of what we try to do doesn't really work. And so you'll look at the weirdness and extremes, and I won't get into picking on different situations, but all the weird things, which has turned into woke and all the rest of it. This is about power. This is about the need for power. And I suppose another place you'll see to make sense of this, and I've been thinking about a long time, and I'm not going to try and put it into too many more words, but a place where you'll see this, the worth thing. You'll find a lot of soldiers, you'll find in bikie gangs, you'll find in lots of strange places where the money thing and the power thing have been replaced with the team thing, where there are a group of people doing this. And then the group of people, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, and for a lot of people who have villainized the bikie gangs, yes, there's some bad stuff going to bikie gangs, but there tends to be a structure of people working together that makes it a worth thing, where they have worth that matters to them. There's lots of other bad things, don't get me wrong, and you could say the same for the military. There's probably very much the same thing. A squad, a team, a crew, that sort of stuff, that worth thing, when they all have their role, that's really valuable. And that can go into all sorts of places, whether that's just your team at work and how that works. You've felt this emotion as to how much this matters, but it's not how our society runs. So I suppose that whole conversation, I'll come back to it if people want to hear more of my thoughts on this sort of stuff. I'll come back to it and try and explain it more, because it's 4 million words, and I'm not one to put it in writing or that sort of stuff. It takes a fair bit to try and make sense of it, and it's easier to analyze small pieces and then realize it fits into this same equation. But ultimately, I suppose my thoughts on where society is and what it's doing wrong, and yes, we can pick on all the things that we're doing wrong and very few things that we're getting right, but if we understand it on the concept of worth, another great one, we're looking at a small town or the middle of Australia where there's the young kids are out of control and people want to blame this, that and the other, but there's the same lack of worth that they have. It's not money, it's not houses, it's not boats, it's not gold jewelry, it's worth, the feeling of worth, the emotion of worth. If we can create a society that has that for everyone, then, and really, I don't see as much as there's an evil with money and that side of things, which there's some logic to that for some people, it's still a very successful way to be able to make a whole world work in a way of transferring wealth and payment. Not so much remove the word payment and go, remove the word wealth and go for payment. So fair days work, fair days pay. And your real thing that you want to get more of is you want to feel better about yourself. You want to feel more important to your community. You want to feel more important to your place in the world. That's what people are really chasing, but we've lost sight of that. In my opinion, at least how our brains work now, unless we can reattach that emotion, that feeling, that belonging, and that feeling you are worthwhile in our world, unless we can reattach that properly in our society, which probably comes into structuring things into smaller groups, smaller teams or something or other, or maybe it's a genetic modification to our brains so we can actually fit in this without being greedy, without people having to take everything or control everything of everybody to make themselves feel okay. Unless we can, well, that's where the fix is. That's my honest opinion of where the fix is. How to find it, that's another thing I would say that I've learned out of my time of thinking about things, is that's not what to focus on. The way to fix this problem is levels down, and is to realize that is the core problem, and then have everyone thinking about fixing the core problem and probably trying different things to make this work, and then work out what actually fixes that piece. The rest will follow. when you work on the top end kind of things, you know, like I said, I'm a mechanic. You want to keep on working out why this spark plug's getting hot and putting better spark plug leads in and putting different things here. It's probably not the problem. The problem is probably over here, and you've got to work over here. Ignore that bit. Once you sort out this, you won't need to worry about that. Listen, I suppose that's my thoughts on it. As for your thoughts on the video, I'm going to try and break it down into small bits and pieces, and you'll hear where I reference back to this sort of thing and making sense and pointing it out. It will take a lot of convincing people of being able to see this, but my honest thoughts, and I've been doing it for a lot of years now, I figured this out a long time ago, and every time I look at a problem of what's going on, I look and I do the same as everyone else. I look at that problem and I blame the parents, or I blame the kids, or I blame the council, or I blame the government, or I blame the World Health Organization, or I blame whatever it is. And when I actually stop doing that and then realize, wait a minute, let's go back to here, I find, there it is, worth versus wealth. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it for the moment. Hope you enjoy it. If you do like it, let me know. I would maybe, whether it's once a month or it's once a week or whatever it is, I'll go down this road and try and pass on what I've got. But really, as much as everything, it's starting discussion, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in. I hope you liked it, and I'll catch you next time.